We have just gotten the chance to see group number A play to completion, and now we have Violet going up against Stefano. Or now Violet and Stefano qualifying in group number A, going on to the playoffs.
Right, going on, and such a, I think people expected those results, but it just wasn't a, line A or point A to point B. It was so crazy having Illusion come in there, actually giving a great game versus Gonzi, and then another one versus Violet, even making it 2-1 there. But now we move on to Group B, having already established our two players coming out of A.
So now in Group B, over on the Rob and Husky stream, it will be Liquid Chef versus EG's Thor Zane, and on this stream we have Liquid Taeja versus Quantic SaSe. Those players are setting up right now.
I'm pretty excited. Well, of course, this has been a Terran and Zerg dominated desk here all morning, and so we finally get to see our first Protoss making his way on to this stage. Of course, that one being SaSe, and there's a few Protoss fans out there.
Yeah, Protoss.
Okay, right. they were kind of like not really wanting to scream too loud or get too excited, It's like, that guy's proud to be a Protoss right there, whoever that one. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, SaSe is a player who has, he's impressed us both. At the last Battlegrounds as well, he got second place. He had some sick builds. He's got some sick control. And he always seems to be really thinking and putting a lot of effort into new ideas, new concepts. He's one of those guys, Sean, that I believe continues to find that extra utility in the Protoss.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at some of SaSe's in-depth achievements, accomplishments, his stats. And interestingly, you'll note that his versus Zerg appears to be his weakest. He's always had some rough patches there, but his versus Terran has always been absolutely insane. As you can see, there's the all-killed Team Liquid in the IPL Team Arena Challenge. Always putting up consistency wherever you find him.
Always putting up that consistency, but unfortunately never been able to sort of activate those nitrous boosters and win a competition. And SaSe's one of those players, he's been around for so long. He had great runs in Warcraft 3. He was definitely a recognized player. He's made great strides in StarCraft 2, but has yet to actually find that crown, that championship. And I absolutely believe that it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I honestly think that SaSe is one of the players who, whenever I've seen him, he's not the player who has a rise and then slumps. He's just been slowly getting better and better and better, getting farther and farther in the GSL qualifiers. And now, as you see him there setting up against Taeja, this is his chance to come right out the gate and up against, in a lot of people's opinions, the best player in the group, and just take a solid lead and get the big win. And his opponent, Liquid Taeja. Let's talk a little bit about him, Marcus.
Yeah, I mean, Taeja, we talked in the initial pregame show about how he had this amazing run through competition online. It's called the Korean Weekly, and the Korean Weekly kind of turned into a, hey, this is where the new breed of Koreans are showcased, and ultimately the winner comes out, and he just, he turns around. Suddenly he's an instant celebrity. He won 6 out of 7 consecutive of those Korean Weeklies, and since then he's had a top 8 Code S and a top 4 Code A. Of course, that one being last year. So we've seen this constant progression from Taeja, but also he's had a little bit of criticism, Sean. And that criticism, although, warranted or not, I think it could be argued, is that since he's left Slayer, since he's joined Liquid, that he hasn't had the same level of success that he has had in the past. Does that mean he's not capable of it? Absolutely not. We just haven't seen it yet.
And honestly, exactly as you're saying, look at the overall matchup stats. I think that's probably the fewest amount of games played in any player's ranking.
Oh, yeah.
But you'll note that a lot of these games are against the tip-top best of the best in Korea.
Right. Great point.
His group, though, I mean, he does have his teammate Liquid Chef as the one remaining Zerg in it, but he has all 3 matchups to play against. And once SaSe gets set up, we get to hop into game number 1. It's going to be on Ohana, which, I mean, does have that really skewed Zerg versus, Protoss versus Terran stat on it. I mean, what do you think about the fact that Protosses are winning, what is it, like 60-some% of games on that map?
I mean, there's, of course, a lot of really interesting places where pylons can be snuck in and held. We see a lot of really cool timings where a lot of aggression can happen at that third before a defense is actually established. We see a lot of warp prism play because of how big that that main is in Ohana. I'm thinking about a few games in particular where, you know, again, you warp in your units, you pick up with the warp prism, and then you continue to warp into the main, and it can be a great utility here to have on the Protoss. I mean, other than that, I'm not quite sure what aesthetically would lend to you know, more success on the Protoss side, but versus a Terran, you know, I mean, we'll have to see, because that Terran today is going to be Taeja, and this is going to be a tough matchup for both these guys.
We see Taeja actually just warming up, doing some just general boxings at the start of the game to make sure that the mouse hand feels right. And it's interesting to note how dramatic of an effect the mouse hand being just a little bit off can be. If you click something a little off and then need to spend even an eighth of a second adjusting it, think about the number of clicks you do. These players playing at, what, 300 clicks per minute?
Yep.
That adds up to seconds of time lost. And if you're losing, what, 10, 20, 30 seconds just every single minute, then suddenly you're having less time to macro. You're having less time to look at the mini-map. All your fundamentals start to weaken dramatically just by those little eighth seconds starting to add up. So
that's why it's so important that they get set up, that they are completely comfortable. There you see the man himself, Taeja, gearing up. It looks like both players are in the game. We've gotten the ready up. I see the countdown screen show up, and we are about to go live.
We know two of the playoff players, and it's time to start Group B action and find out who will be there to join them, as we're kicking off Taeja versus SaSe.
Our first Protoss yet again. Let's go ahead and introduce our players. In the Southeast, as the blue Protoss, he got second place at the last Red Bull LAN, and he's looking to repeat or possibly take a victory here. Can he break out? It is Quantic SaSe.
And in the top left corner, the newest recruit from Team Liquid, the second youngest player at this tournament, it is Liquid Taeja.
You know, Sean, let me ask you a question, because Taeja, he's played against some of the best Protoss, played against some of the best Zerg and the best Terran in the world, played in Code S and in Code A. And then you've got SaSe, right, who, you know, trains in Korea, trains a lot with StarTale. But is he a player that you can, you know, study, research, know everything that you need to know about? That he's kind of, well, this probe seems really...
Well, this probe is actually somewhat unusual. I mean, generally you don't even send out a probe scout this early in this matchup unless you're trying to do something really tricky. But SaSe, of all people, I would definitely give him credit for that. But sorry, Marcus, you were asking about studying.
Right. And we'll see. You know, remember, yesterday he said, expect to see some new things out of me here at this competition. So we'll see. But he sends this guy over and is at least going to try to get an early SCV harass. But yeah, well, so what I was saying is that, you know, is SaSe's unique and sort of almost out there style of play something that Taeja, you know, how do you readily prepare for something like that? I mean, I'm not even sure what the answer would be.
Well, the thing that's interesting about SaSe is that it's not a unique composition that makes him popular or that makes him unusual. For instance, Stefano with his Ling Infester, that composition made him famous, and the fact that he won everything. But for Stefano, you could study his play and begin to play anti-Ling Infester in that regard. What makes SaSe unusual is that he does the same compositions as everyone else, but optimizes them in funky ways like this, where we have two assimilators, two in each assimilator. This super early probe scout. Everything's still on time, but there's these odd stutter steppings of the building timings that we might very well see him just halt probe production once he ends up with 16 or 17 mining in his mineral line. We see one Zealot already popping out. And with a standard early expand from Taeja, I'm curious if SaSe is going to be doing some sort of double Zealot play. No, look at that, canceling the Zealot when it gets 60% done because he saw the early expand.
Yeah, he had good vision of that very early. We've got the Chrono Boost now coming out on the Stalker. We have not had that SCV killed quite yet. Started his Warp Gate as well. And I do believe one Marine moved forward to get vision of the map while a bunker is building at the top. So Taeja certainly going to prepare for that possibility of coming up with two more racks, following up with two more racks behind that. Still has not taken a Geyser, but likely we will see two. Actually, he's going to go with 4 as he throws down another barracks behind it.
Wow, a 4 barracks play. I like this choice on Ohana. Obviously, it's a 2-player map. There's not that many counter-attack angles where you can be caught off guard, but especially if you're a little bit unknown on the map, not sure if there's going to be any sort of crazy tactics coming in or not, you can just bring the aggression right to your opponent right off the bat. And look at this. SaSe is actually playing very much so identically to what Squirtle did in the GSL finals.
Yeah, I mean, pushing forward with that Stalker, kind of used him not only as a scouting unit, but also just to do whatever damage he might be able to get. We're going to have 2 more gateways follow behind this with the Nexus going down, and then the Sentry there to block off in case any aggression does happen to come in. There we finally see the 2 refineries going down for Taeja as he continues to pump out Marines off of these 4 racks, and he is going to have a nice little army here. He just unloaded, and he will move out at least to eliminate the Stalker.
And let's see how quickly SaSe can react. This is always so devastating if you lose the first Stalker and narrowly getting out of there. Interestingly, SaSe, I thought he was going to follow it up with a very fast robo, but no, we have 2 gateways popping out in absolutely perfect sync with his warp gate finishing. And he will have those 3 sentries to be able to deal with this, and he manages to escape with that Stalker.
Playing with fire, limit testing to the max here. SaSe will get that Stalker back. He has the 3 sentries there as well as another one and a Stalker coming out behind it. The Robo is going to be completing here as the warp gates open up. And this little group of Marines just makes its rounds. Goes out, sends the squad down to the lower tower, tries to kill that 1 Stalker as he can, but now will move back. Also leaves 1 Marine at the 3rd just to make sure that he has full vision of it when it actually does go up.
And you know, that's an interesting technique that all players are pretty much doing across all matchups. You saw Illusion do it, Stefano was doing it in his series, just keeping an eye on that 3rd solidly. If you can get a sense of when he's taking his 3rd, you know if a huge attack is coming off 2 base, or if a very defensive play is coming off 3 base.
We have the Twilight Council finishing up as well for SaSe as he takes down those rocks. Meanwhile, this little group of Marines continues to scout around the base. And finally, the add-ons have come up. We've got Double Tech Lab with the Stim and the Combat Shield on its way. And the factory finally loading up with 2 more reactors going down here. So very, very bio-heavy. Throwing down that missile turret at the front, just in case any DTs try to slip in here as well. What do you think about the state of where we're at? We're about to hit the 9-minute mark. Both players have kind of been playing a very standard, almost, you know, stay-back type game. Only Taeja has moved forward with those Marines. But now we see SaSe moving out. What do you think of the state of the game where we're at right now?
Well, I think SaSe, he's such a smart player. You have to give him credit for seeing that Marine push, counting the number of Marines and going, oh yeah, this must be a player who had a lot of barracks up early. So going for this Dark Templar Shrine, where, oh, did it get canceled? Did it get scanned somehow? I'm actually very curious. If we go to Taeja's camera, no, it looks like he had no vision of it. So I'm a little bit surprised at that particular choice, but now we are seeing the Warp Prism, the Zealot Leg Speed, the Templar Archives. This is increasingly becoming a popular 2-base play.
Well, SCV just made its way in, and he's going to see everything as he goes through. He's getting a nice scenic tour of SaSe's base over on the left side. Got all those gateways, the Robo, the Twilight, and more gateways, and he will get finally taken out. But although this tour ended in death, he got all the information and pictures that he needed to see.
It was a great family vacation.
It was. It was. He won't be returning, but it was.
Fun one-way family vacation. So this is kind of an interesting choice. We're actually seeing the attack upgrade come out of SaSe. 4 Zealots being loaded up, and this is largely because the push attack timing for a Terran player tends to pop out around 10 minutes if he's playing normally, or if he goes for this 2 racks or this 4 racks opening, he can get it around 11. But either way, this is around when he moves out, so we'll drop him around when he moves out. And as long as this factory, just gracing by each other, as long as that factory doesn't get too suspicious, he should be in great shape.
Didn't see anything there, but does he have vision here of the front? He's got to be very careful about how he decides to engage this force from Taeja. It is at +1. Meanwhile, here comes that Warp Prism. It is going to be loading up right there. Absolutely nothing here. He's going to go ahead and warp in several more Zealots.
Now this is quite dangerous. SaSe, with a huge pick, Can he manage to clean up 2 armies at once at the same time? It looks like the main is going down at the natural expansion. That boosted Immortal is doing so much pain, and it looks like Taeja might barely break it. No, he doesn't, and in the main base, so many Zealots. One hell of a play by Quantic SaSe.
Yes, he's still doing so much damage. He's going to get a reactor as well. He almost got that tech lab, but how is he going to clean this up? Nearly all the units. In fact, he can just warp in yet again. Nearly every SCV here in the main is going to be cleaned up. And now that these Zealots have charge, this is not looking good. He's going to be able to pick off these units just as they leave their they leave the racks. And Sean, this is looking quite good for SaSe.
Oh, SaSe with an incredible play. This could be the fastest game we've seen yet at the Red Bull Battlegrounds.
Wow.
Good game. SaSe takes down Taeja convincingly.
I mean, you know, the Warp Prism goes out. The factory moves out to scout. It looks like the factory might see the Warp Prism, but it doesn't. He goes in and a medevac spots the Warp Prism just as it's warping in the additional 4 units. But at the exact same time that the warp-in takes place, SaSe somehow lands the perfect force fields, traps all those units in, has the Archon there as well, and it just seemed like a perfect series of events to unfold for SaSe.
But it's really incredible the fact that SaSe is able to exploit all the tendencies from Terrans. In the mid game, the Terran really has the edge. They've just finished Stim and Combat and +1, and most importantly, Medevacs. Terran can do drops. If they attack your front, they can lift up over force fields. But now, SaSe just says, well, I know when you're going to do that, and you're going to have no units in your base. And if I can just force field to stay alive in my main and warp in yours, you will eventually have no base left. And bases are important to win with.
They are pretty important to win with. Now, Sean, there was also kind of another interesting point in that, like, if that attack would have broken through for Taeja and we would have seen SaSe do the warp-in at the main, he may not have had any units to combat that. So I just always commend those decisions because it seems like, oh, I'm going to warp into his main because I've already got this damage done, but then you could lose the battle back home and find yourself in a terrible spot. So SaSe handled that well. Taeja, after that first game, what do you think's going through his head?
I mean, Taeja immediately is going to feel this kind of whoa, because in general, in the matchup, as Terran, you say, I have to defend until I can get this medevac force, and then I attack with my big medevac force, and then he has to defend. That's literally the order that you describe it in. But not this time. It's, I'm going to have to defend till the 15-minute mark? No, that seems like way too long. But the map choice is going to be Entombed Valley from Liquid Taeja, and it looks like both players are ready, so without any further ado,